everyone, Amelia here with Artwork Strings Online Music Studio. Today we're going to talk about the very basics of violin, and we're going to start with an anatomy class. So this video is going to be all about naming the different parts of the instrument and understanding what they do. So let's get started. This is the violin. We call this part of the violin the body. So all of this main part here is the body. We generally don't want to just grab the body with our fingers because our fingers are oily and dirty, and you're going to get those oils on the varnish of your instrument, and sometimes the sweat on your hand, depending on your pH levels in your sweat, that can eventually wear away the varnish on the violin. Now there are places where it's acceptable to touch the body. As you can tell, I'm holding down here at the bottom a little bit more. I'll kind of hold on where this piece is. We'll talk about that. And then I always hold the violin right here. So if this is the body, this part is called the neck. And you can hold on to the violin by the neck and by the base of it down here. Also, when you are playing violin, sometimes you're going to be shifting it up into a higher position here, closer to your face. And then we do put our hand actually on the instrument right here. So if this is the body and that's the neck, these are called the ribs. So we're going to put our hand right here on the ribs. Usually when you're first starting violin, you want to start here and just get used to open strings. Because if you start up here and you just kind of have your hand relaxed and don't touch any of the strings, if you start up here, then you're training yourself to have a nice straight wrist right off the bat. A lot of people think that they need to hold the violin with their hands so that the violin doesn't fall. And what happens is when you hold the violin, we tend to do this with our wrist. And that's really uncomfortable. It's going to destroy your tendons, and you just don't want to do that. So when you're day one violin, just get used to picking it up and holding it by the body and the neck and the ribs right here. But don't grab the main part of the body. Up here at the top, this is also another very beautiful part of the instrument. This part here is your scroll. The scroll is not, as far as I am concerned, being a player, the scroll's not super functional. What it does is it's holding your pegs here in this peg box. So the scroll is up here. This is the peg box. That's where your 4 pieces right here, these are called the pegs. These are tuning pegs. These are what tune your strings to the proper pitches. So obviously it's functional. It keeps the instrument together and it keeps it tuning. But when you're playing violin, you're not really going to be, once you're tuned, you're not really going to be messing with this too much. It's just really pretty, and I do use it in my teaching as a reference to move your hand closer to the scroll. So we're going to be moving that way. Or move away from the scroll, or lift your scroll, because sometimes students will drop the violin down, kind of play like fiddlers a little bit, and that's not so great for your back or for classical technique. So I will refer to the scroll as keep your scroll up, so nice and horizontal when you have it on your shoulder. And then of course these are the pegs. We'll get more into the tuning later on. I might do actually a separate video on tuning right after this. So these are your pegs. Let's see, we're gonna start with this peg right here. So if you're looking at your instrument, it's the first peg on your right on the bottom. So right here, this is your E peg, this is your A peg, this is your D peg, and this is your G peg. Right here, right where the strings touch this little black piece of wood right here, before the strings go into the peg box and onto the pegs, That little tiny piece is called the nut. Again, I will refer to move toward the nut if you want to lower your pitch. So if you're thinking of it this way, lowering your pitch, go more toward the nut, and then away from the nut or towards you is going to be higher in pitch. This black piece right here is called the fingerboard. It's just a board, as you can see, it's sticking up right there. This is a board for your fingers as you're playing notes. We want to actually press the string all the way down until it is touching that board so that you get a really pure tone. We'll go into more detail at some point on that once we get into fingers. But that's the fingerboard. Here's your strings again. We already named the E, A, D, G pegs. The strings they are attached to are the E, A, D, and G strings. This piece right here is the bridge. Imagine like the strings are walking across the bridge. The bridge is really important. We're gonna go into bridge care at some point. Basically, the first thing you need to know about your bridge is you need it on your violin and you need it standing straight up and down. So you can kind of see there, it's straight up and down, perpendicular to the violin body. So that is how you want your bridge to look. If your bridge starts doing this, like it's a little wonky, that's a problem. You want to, if you're more advanced, you'll want to try to fix it. But otherwise you might want to just take it to your luthier and let them fix it. So let's go further down from the bridge here. You have this little piece, this little black piece right here. And on many violins, it's going to have 4 little tiny twisty button looking things. Those little twisty screw buttons are actually called fine tuners. So if you're a beginner, I'm going to bet that your violin probably has 4 fine tuners, 1 for each string. And what's nice about that is you don't have to worry about learning the pegs yet. You can just tune with your tuners. Righty tighty and lefty loosey. If you turn it to the right, like clockwise, turn it clockwise, it's going to make the pitch go up. If you turn it counterclockwise or left, it's going to make your pitch go down. So those are your fine tuners. Now if your violin is completely out of tune, unfortunately, you do have to learn how to use the pegs. But if your violin is holding pretty well, you can use those fine tuners. The fine tuners live on this black piece of wood right here, which is called the tail piece. So we've got a neck, we've got ribs, we've got a body, and we've got a tail. So it's kind of a funny looking animal. This part right here, mine is quite large because I like a nice tall one for my chin. This is a chin rest. So you're going to put your chin on the chin rest. Pretty easy. Different violins come with different chin rests. You can always swap them out. It is one of the customizable features of a violin. So if you feel like you need something more in the middle, I really enjoy this middle kind of hold because I feel like I can really get my cheek on the instrument that way. You could do that. You could get a middle one. Some of them are more just on the side there, and they're always going to be on the left side of the instrument because you always want to play violin the proper way, left, on the left side of your body, on your left shoulder and the left side of your chin. So you want the chin rest on the left side of the instrument. Don't play backwards violin. Down here at the very bottom of your instrument, there's just a little button, and that is called the end button. And what that does is you'll see a little cord or some kind of plastic or metal little loop, and that is basically suspending your tailpiece with the tension of the strings on the bridge. There's this tension here pulling the strings down. The tailpiece kind of hovers there like that, and then it's going to come down and hook around that end button. So that is really what secures your whole instrument together. If your end button is breaking or popping loose, that's a big problem. Make sure you go to a luthier to make sure that that is fixed. On my violin, I like to put a shoulder rest. This is a very well-used Bon Musica. I need to probably get a better one at some point. I like these. Some people don't. Really, shoulder rests and chin rests are completely customizable. You want to go to a shop and try out different shoulder rests to see what fits your body the best. I like a little bit of height because I feel like I have a long neck, especially once I put the violin up. So I like the height on my chin rest, and I like a little bit of adjustability on the shoulder rest. I also like that this one has a bit of a hook that I can actually bend, the metal bends, so I'm able to just like hook it right there on my shoulder. I don't have to worry about it slipping. The instrument's gonna hold, and you just put it on your instrument on both sides of those bottom seams there, and it just kind of hooks on the back. And then you're going to put your instrument up, and you could walk around all day free-handed. The last things I guess I'll talk about on the actual instrument are, these are called the F holes. They are shaped a bit like a cursive F. So, and they've got a little notch. So you've got this S look, but think of it like a cursive F. And then there's a tiny little line that goes right down in the middle, you can probably see, or a little tiny notch on both sides to give you that cross of the F. So those are F holes. F holes are basically where the sound comes out. So when I'm teaching and I'm referring to the F holes, I will often tell my students or remind my students, keep your violin, parallel to the floor, keep your violin up, and you want to face your F holes out to your audience because that's where the sound comes out. So you want your sound going out to your audience. If you play violin like this, first of all, the audience doesn't get to see this beautiful instrument, and then the sound's going off sideways. So make sure once you're on stage, you position your body. Don't twist anything, just rearrange where your feet are so that you can have your F holes facing the audience. So those are all the parts of the violin. Please stay tuned for the next video, which is about the parts of the bow, and I will show you how to hold the bow in that same video. Please click the link below to subscribe to my channel and keep getting lots of these fun little short videos and my explanations for what this thing is and how to play it. Thank you so much. Now let's get practicing.